Well, actually, when they first asked me for help, again, like I said, I did not go to the NBI. The Department of Homeland Security went to the NBI. And then as they began investigating, they asked for my assistance because my daughters were the one who reported, and I guess, ready to help whatever way I can. And they knew I was ready to help when requested. And the first conversations I was having as we were looking for the CM who had run away, they needed his testimony to make the raid. As we were going to meet him, there was a head of the department head, and then there was an agent, and they were both involved. The head of the department was very concerned. He was asking me about Tom's connections, because in the Philippines, if you're connected with a politically powerful syndicate, the NBI investigation is useless, and he's not going to waste his time on something like that. Okay, so it's political or wealthy connections, which are usually somewhat tied together, political and wealthy. So he was asking me, I thought, he's a missionary, he has a mission and all this type of stuff. So he was satisfied that there was not the political connections, political or money connections that would cause his efforts to be worthless. That was within the Philippines, of course. So they went ahead, they did the raid and everything, and then when Tom got arrested and the U.S. Senator interfered, one report we got back, when I met with the agent, not the department head ended up being transferred. A wonderful man doing a great work, but because of the U.S. Senator's intervention, this wonderful man was transferred because he had created a problem for the Philippine government by doing this raid on this wonderful person supported by the U.S. Senator. So this man actually, he didn't lose his job, but he was transferred. The agent who conducted the raid was still there. Okay, the one who conducted the raid, he was still there. He wanted to know, why was Tom so powerful? Because they only see this with big syndicates and real money people to have that type of influence. And I said, I didn't know he was. I don't know why he's that powerful. I have no explanation for it. And he's the one who let us know that they did not expect Toto and Jake to be bailed and all that. He shows up again in the, he had to give testimony in the case, what did they call it? They applied for the case to be quashed. And they were anticipating this to be done. And at one of the hearings, before the judge decided to ask them to give written arguments, this agent actually gave testimony in court before the judge. And the defense attorneys of Toto and Jake were trying to make the case the arrest is not legitimate because there was not a crime happening at the time of the raid. Now, in Philippine law, for certain crimes, yes, you cannot conduct a raid without a warrant unless a crime is happening. But this does not apply to child abuse. But they were trying to ignore the fact that it was abuse happening, and they wanted to say this arrest was not valid because there was no warrant, there was no crime happening. And the agent in court, you'll find it in the sworn testimony, says, at the time of the raid, we found dorm parents in compromised situation with one of the young people. Oh. So he's saying, yes, there was a crime happening at the time we raided. This is in the court records. And so that was the last time I saw him, and he actually apologized to me because they had made promises to see him, to protect him and his daughter. They had made promises that with what information they have, these guys will never be out of jail. And then it all fell apart. And the last time I saw him, he gave that testimony. He also apologized. I said, Joe, I'm sorry that we couldn't do more. That's all we could do.
Have Toto and Jake been acquitted?
Not really acquitted. What happened, the case to quash, they were pushing that first before the trial could actually go to court. And when it came time for it to be quashed, the judge, instead of quashing the case, asked the the two lawyers to give 90 days their final arguments on the case. We believe that there was some prearranged agreement that it was to be quashed, but I think it all gets murky in my mind now. But whether it was that the judges saw the victims, whether it was the testimony of the NBI agent, I don't remember exactly what it was. But the judge, rather than making a ruling that day as expected, said, give me your final arguments in 90 days. And you can find in there, our attorney gave a really good final argument. And after 90 days, the judge ruled the trial will proceed. But back on that day he was supposed to give his ruling, Joe Coffey tweeted to the world, all charges dismissed, the raids were ruled unjustified. There wasn't supposed to even be a ruling on the raids, you know. There was a ruling about quash the case. They were talking about illegal arrest, but it's just a weird way to say it. And Tom announced also that the case had been dropped. I forget exactly the venue. And we go back and think, what's going on here? Was this a setup that they had agreement? And for some reason, the judge changed his mind and said, we're going to have it. And after 90 days, rather than ruling to quash it, he says the case will proceed. So then we kept trying to show up, although half the dates would be canceled. We keep showing up with the victims who still wanted to testify. They wanted to testify, I'll help you. They want an attorney, I'll help you. I did everything I can to try to help the victims. So I'm helping them through, and finally we get to a point, we're now talking 3.5 years after all this going on. And I sit him down with the attorney. I say, okay, attorney, just let them know where we are now. He says, okay, here's the story. He says, if you want to see someone in jail, I believe we can get a conviction, but this is the way it happens. It will be 2 to 3 years to get the conviction. The case is starting now. You have to show up in court every single court day. If you victims do not show up on the court dates, the case will be dismissed because there's no one to testify. So for 2 to 3 years before you get conviction, you got to be available every court date. But our attorney said, seeing the pattern of the defense so far, they will appeal. They seem to have unlimited financial resources. So he says they will appeal. And he says, in the Court of Appeals in the Philippines, it's a minimum of 5 years for a decision. So the fastest track we can imagine is 8 years. But my estimate as a trial attorney, my law firm has 3 partners, and one of them does a trial. Because my experience as a trial attorney, it will be 10 to 12 years before anyone sees jail. And during that time, you have to be available for every court appearance is called. Mm-hmm. And he says, if you want to do it, I will do it for you. I'll commit to it. But you have to decide, are you going to commit to it? Well, they can, within a couple weeks of consideration, they just let me know. He says, we have, because of their motion to, that's what a motion, because of their motion to, that's what they call it, because of their motion to quash, all that testimony became part of public records. So the victims say, you know what, we've got this on public record, and we don't want to spend the next 10 years of our life dealing with this. So we're just going to let it drop. So what happened the next time the court case was gone? There were no victims there, no testifiers. So the case was dismissed in the sense of not proceeding. No one was found innocent, no one was found guilty. But there was no acquittal in the sense of proven innocent.